Today, we're going to be tier ranking all 116 books that I read in 2024. I'm not going to waste any of your time. We are just going to get started. For the categories, we have would and will reread. That basically means I would and most likely will be rereading the book. I do love to reread books, and I have a pretty good reread radar, I would say. Then we have You Were a Fun Time. I really enjoyed it, but I might not reread it. You're fine. It wasn't a bad book, but it also wasn't amazing either. Then we have Go Girl Give Us Nothing. This means it was very bland, not very interesting, and frankly, a waste of my time. And then Wish I Could Unread You means that these books make me angry when I think too hard and long about them, and I wish I could get back my time that I spent reading these books. Now, I put these in at random. They're not in any particular order, so I apologize in advance that there's going to be books in series like all over the place. We're going to start with Christmas Tree Farm. I'm going to put You Were a Fun Time. I really do not enjoy Christmas romance ever, but in all reality, this was the only Christmas book that I didn't hate. So I feel like because of that, the floor was so low that naturally it's going to be a little higher. The Undoing. I'm actually still reading this. This is a arc that I got recently. I'm gonna say you're fine. Just because I think it could use a run with an editor, just because the writing itself is kind of clunky. But I think with one round of an editor, like this book, it could go places. 101 Essays to Change the Way You Think. I think You Were a Fun Time. It wasn't necessarily life-changing, so I probably won't reread it again. It was kind of therapeutic. 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, however, I will be rereading that. That book, it was so above my level of like comprehension because he is like a psychologist or something. So he does talk on a really, really deep level. So I'm sure if I reread it, I'm sure I'd get more. Then we have All of Us Villains. I'm gonna put Go Girl Give Us Nothing. It gave me nothing. That's all I gotta say. For Dawn of Onyx, I Wish I Could Unread You. I feel so bad. Recently, I like ripped on this book and someone messaged me and they were like, oh, this was one of my favorites. I'm so sorry. I just really could not get past the whole advertising itself as inspired by ACOTAR, and it was basically the biggest ACOTAR knockoff I've ever read. Capturing the Devil, Go Girl Give Us Nothing. It was such a good series, and it was the lousiest finale ever. Champion, You Were a Fun Time. It was a reread, so I did enjoy that. A Court of Wings and Ruin. Pretty much, if it's a Sarah J. Maas book, I would and will reread it, and most likely, if it's on this list, it was a reread. There's only one Sarah J. Maas book that I read for the first time this year, and it's because it came out this year. Counting the Cost. I don't know if you guys were around when the Duggar thing happened, but it was like a big deal in my circles. I read that book. The whole Duggar thing, like when it blew up, I remember it was like big news in my little circles. So I figured like, why not educate myself on the drama? And wow, that was education and a half right there. Ella Enchanted, I Wish I Could Unread You. The only thing about you that doesn't tick me off is that you inspired the Anne Hathaway movie. An Offer from a Gentleman. Oh, yeah, that's Bennett's book. You Were Fine. Harry Potter, always will reread. Becoming Free Indeed, this was the other Duggar's book. Honestly, it was cool to like read the stories of what happened. I was enjoying the tea. All right, more Harry Potter books. Reread Central. Haunting Prince Dracula. I'm actually gonna say Go Girl Give Us Nothing. I know I just said the series was so good. Books 1 and 3 were really good. Books 2 and 4, on the other hand, were kind of disappointing. I read the whole series in a vlog. I can't necessarily say If He Had Been With Me was a fun time, because I cried a lot and it made me miserable in all the best ways. But yeah, we'll put it there. I had a great time reading you emotionally. We have Legend by Marie Lu. You Were a Fun Time. I don't know if I would reread them again. How to Pray. You Were Fine. It was all really over my head. It was more like a collection of essays than an actual book, and I didn't know that when I started it. The Psychology of Persuasion. Go Girl Give Us Nothing. I read a lot of books like for my job to do certain aspects of my job better, so you'll see a lot of like public speaking type books in here for that reason. Most of them were Go Girl Give Us Nothing. I've learned more from podcasts than I have from books about public speaking. Funny story, You Were a Fun Time. I don't know if I'd necessarily reread you. I will say I was born and raised in Michigan, and the entire book is like a local from Michigan trying to show someone who recently moved to Michigan all the fun places and all the fun things you can do. And it was so like Michigan coded, and it made me miss home so much. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Oh, go girl, give us nothing. That's Penelope and Colin's book. Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnight. Would and will reread. For Foxglove, I know I'm like obsessed with this trilogy, but Foxglove was fine. The first and the third book, though, on the other hand, I'll tell you about it when we get there. Stalking Jack the Ripper, you were such a fun time. It was a reread, but the first time I read it, I was much younger. Actually, you know, I could see myself rereading just the first book, like maybe not going deep into the series. Sharp Objects, I Wish I Could Unread You. I don't know what this book did to me, but like, it didn't just put me in a reading slump, it put me in a life slump. Like, I was emotionally unwell for days after reading this book because it just like psychologically messed me up. I can't do thrillers, in case you haven't picked that up yet. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Go Girl Give Us Nothing. This was highly recommended to me. It was so like not good. I didn't enjoy it. Unfortunately, the two Witcher books that I read, I'm gonna put I Wish I Could Unread You. I know they're my husband's favorites, and I love that for him because he does not like reading, but he does enjoy the Witcher books because they were written by a Polish author, and my husband is Polish, and he loves all things The Witcher, the show, the books, the video games, just because like that's really cool that something that's Polish is so like widely renowned, and I love that for him. But unfortunately, I just did not enjoy these books in the slightest. The Art of Woo, Go Girl Give Us Nothing. Frankly, I don't remember half the stuff that I read in there. Harry Potter, All I Want for Christmas. If I had to pick three that were the worst books I read this year, All I Want for Christmas would be the first or the second one. Happily Never After, I'm gonna say I Wish I Could Unread You. That might be a little harsh, but it didn't give us nothing. Frankly, it gave us too much. I think it's just because it was my most anticipated book of the year, and it ended up being one of the biggest disappointments. So yeah, that was really sad. The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center, you were a fun time. You were really fun. Don't know if I'd read you again. Queen's Assassin, were you fine or did you give us nothing? Frankly, you gave us nothing. You really gave us nothing. It did, however, like have a really good plot twist towards the end, but it was also extremely predictable. So I'm gonna put give us nothing. The Rose Society, this was a reread. Honestly, the first book was fine. I hated the rest of it. Crescent City, you were fine. This is one of two Sarah J. Maas books now that I haven't loved. So that's tragic. I was hoping to keep it down to one, but we are at two now. The Young Elites, Go Girl Give Us Nothing. Unfortunately, The 8 Rules for Love by Jay Shetty is also Go Girl Give Us Nothing. I was really excited because I love his podcast, but The 8 Rules for Love I just felt like was so basic, and it was a lot of like common sense stuff just like put under some really fluffy wording, so to me it was kind of disappointing. Ballad of Never After, will reread. Frankly, the whole trilogy I will be rereading. Talk Like Ted, Go Girl Give Us Nothing. The Art of Closing the Sale. I honestly don't remember half the books I read for work, so sorry. You were fine. I liked Vow of Thieves and Dance of Thieves. You're a Sarah J. Maas book, so you go up there. The Mountain Was You, can and will reread. Will be rereading that one for absolute certain. The No Show, you were fun. Betting on You was also fun. I thought it was going to be like the Love Wager, frankly, not as good as the Love Wager. I think this is basically the YA version of Love Wager because they had very similar plot lines. I didn't feel the chemistry of the main people half as much as I did for the Love Wager. Prodigy, you were a fun time. I'm getting a little nervous of when we hit the second rows for some of these because this is not going to fit on my screen. Okay, The Assassin's Blade. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's my least favorite of all of the Throne of Glass books, but I will reread it. I will. And I'll never stop. Can't stop, won't stop. On a night like this, I'm gonna put You Were Fine. The first half of this book was phenomenal. I was convinced it was like a 6 out of 5 star book. And then for some reason, like a love interest pops up halfway through. Very random. And then the second half of the book is a romance. The romance was just so icky and it left a really bad taste in my mouth for so many reasons. And no, it just ruined the book for me, unfortunately. Jordan Peterson's Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. I'm gonna say You Were Fine. It didn't hit as hard as the first 12, which makes sense because they're like the second round of good ideas. I mean, maybe I would reread it if I reread 12 Rules for Life, but I highly doubt it. Every Heart a Doorway. I'm gonna put Go Girl Give Us Nothing. It just wasn't for me. I wish it could have been, but I just didn't love it. When the Moon Hatched. I'm gonna put You Were a Fun Time. I have not finished this yet, but I'm currently reading it right now and I plan to finish it in the next day or two. Maybe. Definitely before the end of the year. Obviously, I would not put it on this list if I was not definitely going to read it by the end of the year. For Zodiac Academy, book 1, I'm gonna put I Wish I Could Unread You, but also, like, I don't know. I have so many questions because what was that? Divine Rivals. Here's the thing. I would have said would and will reread, but the second book just wasn't as amazing. I mean, I could put this up there and not the second one because that was a beautiful book. All right, A Curse for True Love. Starting the second row there. Okay, The Duke and I. Frankly, You Were Fine. That's Daphne's book. Now we have another Harry Potter book. Can and will we read? 1,000 Heartbeats. I actually am debating rereading that already, even though I read it, I think this summer. It was just really good. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed that book. A Court of Silver Flames. I mean, if I probably will reread it because it's part of my booktube channel is just Sarah J Maas book stuff, so I'll probably have to reread it to make sure I'm like staying on top of my information. But I don't love A Court of Silver Flames, and it's not for the reason you think. It's mostly because I feel like the book needed one more round through an editor. The book just did not feel put together for me. It felt very clunky. It wasn't the Sarah J Maas that I know and love. But, you know, she talks about how close the book is to her heart and how special it is and how much it means to her. So for that reason alone, I will chill. A Court of Thorns and Roses, obviously we're going to be reading. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. As much as I'm so into that, I think if I wanted to re-experience it, I would just rewatch the TV show. Is that horrible to say? You were a fun time though. I had a fantastic time with you. And I Darken. I definitely wish I could unread you. I DNF'd the whole series after that. That was horrible. Same with The Outlast 6. Then we have Heir of Fire. Also a reread because it's a Sarah J Maas book. Then we have Powerful. I'm gonna put you with You Were Fine. Honestly, I really enjoyed Powerless, but Powerful just wasn't the novella I needed it to be. I can see why the author chose to write that novella from that point of view. I didn't necessarily love the character whose POV it was from. Jacoby, I wish I could unread you because you put me in a bit of a reading slump, and I did not appreciate that. Frankly, that was a little rude. Good Girl, Bad Blood, second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I'm gonna put it in You're Fine just because you weren't as good as Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so I can't really put you up there with her. The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is Antony's book. I'm gonna put You Were Fine. Oh, this one is so funny. I was told to read How to Be an Overnight Success, and I heard it was like super motivating and you'll love it. It was the most like ridiculous thing. She's writing a book about her experience of becoming an overnight success. And she's like, step 1, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And now let me tell you my personal experience where I did all of those things and became an overnight success. It's like, she didn't even follow her own advice. Like, she gave her advice and then she told her story. And it's like, how? These are not connected. Anyways, Reckless, You Were a Fun Time. Oh dear. We can't see anything anymore. I guess we're just gonna have to scroll down. Sorry. Okay. Escaping from Houdini, You Were a Really Fun Time. I really enjoyed this book. This one was so fun. It was like haunted carnival on a cruise murder mystery. So good. I really enjoyed it. It actually gave me a lot of Caraval vibes. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I mean, I've read it like 7 times. I don't see what's stopping me from making that 8. Add the other Harry Potter there while we're at it. Once Upon a Broken Heart, that whole trilogy, I am definitely reading, without a doubt. The Midnight Star. I Wish I Could Unread You. I had a horrible time. Belladonna, definitely rereading the first and the third book. Sadly, the second book went to You're Fine. It mostly served as a transitional book, if I'm being totally honest. For the Spell Shop, I had a lot of fun. You Were a Good Time. All vibes, no plot. So if that's what you're into, definitely read that. Unmaking of June Farrow. I'm gonna break some hearts and say Go Girl Give Us Nothing, just because I wanted to love it. I really, really did. Everyone else loves it, but it just fell so flat for me. It felt like a super two-dimensional book with no depth whatsoever. I could, even while I was reading it, I was like, I know this is supposed to make me feel something, but I feel nothing. The Toll reread. I plan to reread the whole Scythe series. Don't know when, but I will. Tell me what really happened. I prematurely rated this 5 stars. I read it in one sitting and I got this like high from how amazing it was. And then now that I've like taken a step back, I'm like, okay, it was more like 4 stars, but it was still really, really good. I'd still highly recommend it. Queen of Shadows, you're so a reread. For Powerless, You Were a Fun Time. You Were a Fun Time. For Listen for the Lie, I'm gonna say Go Girl Give Us Nothing. Honestly, I don't even remember how that book ends. Like, that's how uninterested I was in that book. Ruthless Vows. Oh my goodness, this is This is getting to be a lot, guys. Okay, Dance of Thieves. I'm gonna say you were fine. Right up there with Vow of Thieves. I read them for a vlog and like they were good, but I kept just wanting to put them down. Like I hated that I had to read them for a challenge because I never at any point just wanted to sit down and read this book for a couple hours, you know? Daisy Jones and the Six. I'm gonna say that you were a fun time. I heard the TV show is really good and I haven't seen it yet, so I'll probably check that out. I think it's on Netflix. Ooh, then we have Gleanings. Now, I know I just said I was obsessed with the whole Skies trilogy, and I was, but I was really disappointed by The Gleanings, which was a novella of a bunch of short stories. I'm fine with it so long as it gives me like a more rounded picture or it gives me more information, but I felt like this novella was really just random and it didn't really give me anything new. It was still enjoyable because I was having withdrawals from like finishing the series and having loved it so much, but yeah, Caraval was and will be another reread, so we can add that up there. Then we have Lore. I wish I could unread you. I had a horrible time. Mr. Wrong Number, you were fine. Actually, I think you were a fun time. Next is Check and Mate. I wish I could unread you. I really wish I could. Listen, I'm not gonna say names, but there's one booktuber who I used to anything she recommended I would read. In the past year, I'd been reading a lot of her recommendations and I actually hated a lot of them. And this was the final straw for me to just not take her book recommendations anymore because I was like, you know what? We just have completely different tastes now. I think her taste just changed and mine changed at the same time in just polar opposite directions. Spectacular was such a good novella for Caraval. When I reread the Caraval series, because I definitely will, I will totally be including Spectacular in that reread. I also got the special edition from Barnes & Noble, so it's illustrated. It's so pretty and I love it. Draw Down the Moon. This is the one that's tied for worst book I read this year. I don't recommend it. Don't read it. I'm mad just thinking about it. I love the idea of celestial magic, but this was the worst execution of celestial magic I have ever read. Throne of Glass. Obviously. Ooh, we're gonna have 3 rows for would and will read. Okay. We have Thunderhead. Can and will reread. Row 3, please. I mean, you know, I want to be happy about this because I have so many in the top tier, but realistically, majority of these were rereads because I was having such a poor reading year. The books that I actually like started and finished this year for the first time is 11 of these. And there's a lot more than 11 here. To Sir Philip with Love. This is Eloise's I Wish I Could Unread You. But you know what? I do appreciate you for making it official to me that I never want to read another Bridgerton book again. Royal Holiday, I'm gonna put you were fine. I hate Christmas romances, and this one, I think I only enjoyed it because the first 2 I read before it were so bad. Ultra Processed People, I am definitely rereading this one again. I've already geeked out about this book way too many times in other vlogs, so I won't jump into it. But if you want to completely change how you view food, you need to read this book. And I mean that in like a positive way, not in like a it's gonna make you afraid to eat. Like it's gonna empower you to eat well. Scythe is totally would and will reread. And I believe that's the whole Scythe trilogy up there. There we go. Next is The Ministry of Time. I want to say I wish I could unread you because I was definitely mad when I finished it, but I'm going to put Go Girl Give Us Nothing. I was mad because the book quite literally gave us nothing. And even the huge plot twist was just so like, I didn't care. I was so past caring by the end of that book. Kingdom of Ash is gonna be a reread. Then Verity, listen, I wish I could unread Verity because it has scarred me and I think about it often and I care too much, and sometimes I have to remind myself that it's not real. And this is also just confirmation that I should not be reading thrillers like ever. Welcome to Adulting. I'm gonna say Go Girl Give Us Nothing because this was a Gen Xer who wrote a book for millennials and it's very cringy. When people are big and God is small, you were a fun time, especially because I actually did a reading challenge with my mom that never made it to the YouTube channel, and I'm actually very sad about that that, and sometimes I do regret like deciding not to continue that reading vlog. It was just kind of hard because me and my mom lived in different places at the time, but it was really fun. And I think my mom is the most amazing person in the whole entire world, and I think you guys will think so too. So I'd really love to do a vlog with my mom for you guys so that you can get to experience her amazingness with me. That vlog never happened, sadly, and I don't even have the footage to like make the vlog happen. So Wildfire, go girl, give us nothing. I've also decided that Hannah Grace is just not for me after this book. Wisteria, this is the book that made the trilogy go from like good to amazing for me. This was such a beautiful third book in a trilogy. And realistically, in a trilogy, I've noticed a pattern. The second book is my favorite, the first book is my second favorite, and the last book is usually my least favorite. Because it feels like a lot of authors are just desperately trying to find a way to wrap up the plot. But this was honestly the best ending to a trilogy I've ever read in my life. All right, XOXO. I wish I could unread you. Like, it was a cool concept, but it read like a child wrote it. It was so bad. You make it feel like Christmas. I also wish I could unread you. You May Now Kill the Bride. You were fun. I actually really enjoyed this book. It was a little like intense for me at sometimes, but it was probably the first adult murder mystery I actually thoroughly enjoyed. So you were a fun time. Definitely would not reread you though. And then 0 stars, do not recommend. I'm gonna put in You Were a Fun Time. And believe it or not, that is all of the books that I read this year, and they all got 2 rows, and that's crazy to me. Let me know if, based off of my taste, you have any book recommendations for me that I can look into for 2025. But in the meantime, you should definitely check out some of the reading challenges I've done in the past, and you should subscribe to my channel so you get notified whenever I post a new video.